Well, good morning and welcome to this episode of Unfair Advantage, where we explore strategies, insights, and methodologies to give you an unfair advantage. I'm your host, Mona Hilton, CEO of Advantage Anywhere, and we're proud to bring you topics and guests that will stretch your mind and grow your business. No pun intended. If you've missed any amazing episodes of Unfair Advantage, or maybe you just want to binge watch on topics that will improve your business and your life, check out the Unfair Advantage recordings at advantageanywhere.com/videos. And be sure to subscribe to our ever-growing YouTube channel for the very latest in information, tips, news on the hottest business and leadership topics. So let me ask you, have you ever questioned whether you really should invest in sales talent during tough times? Well, if so, you're in luck. Today, we're talking with Julie Podewitz, the founder and CEO of Grow Your Occupancy, and we're going to tackle those tough questions. Maybe they're questions that you've thought about, maybe you weren't really comfortable asking. Well, no worries, because today I'm going to ask them for you. So we're super excited to introduce you to Julie Podewitz. She is a seasoned professional. She's a sales trainer in senior living. I've known her many, many years, and we're really excited to hear her perspective on why and how you should invest in sales training during tough times. So without any further ado, let's dive right in. Julie, welcome to the Unfair Advantage. What an honor it is to have you here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Mona. It's great to see you. Thank you for having me on your show. This is one of my favorite topics.
I know. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. I am great. Thanks for asking. Everything's going very, very well. Hope you're the same.
Yes, looking forward to the holiday season. I'm dressed for it today.
I see that. I'm quite impressed.
But I think, we know that people are dealing with tough times right now. And I thought it would be a good idea to just get your perspective on, are we in tough times? What are tough times exactly?
Well, I would answer, the simple answer is yes, we're in tough times. That being said, Mona, tough times are defined by those who are going through times. So in senior living, honestly, yes, there are tougher times than not, but I think all time is tough. Selling senior living is challenging. However, that being said, right now, as you and I are recording this, we're post-pandemic, sort of, kind of. So we got pandemic, we are leaning into, tougher financial times, or that perception of increased interest rates. We have a staffing crisis right now.
Huge.
And no matter what time you're listening to this, there's going to be those and others, right? Challenges to find that tough time. So yes, we are.
So why this? Why should we talk about investing in sales talent during tough times? And why should we talk about it now? How does the industry perceive sales talent?
Well, we're coming to the end of the year, and people are coming into budget season, and because of the challenges, right, with staffing and increased pay scales and leaning into higher interest rates, budgets are being cut. And the first budget that typically is cut, Mona, is sales and marketing.
True.
So I think in any time we need to invest in our sales talent, but particularly in the tougher times when you don't really want to. You've got to find the money the dollars to invest. And the tougher the time, the greater the investment. And that's why now? Because we have to continue to elevate our competitive advantage, no pun intended, now more than ever in our senior living business, to maintain and to grow and sustain our business, right?
Right. So do you feel like sometimes sales talent gets underappreciated and that therefore that's why they're the first to be cut?
Well, I think that we're not maybe cutting, but we do undervalue sales. It may not be a popular thing to say, but I've been both on the consultant side and the provider side for many years, and I've experienced it on, from looking into it and being into it. Sales is unappreciated. Uh, there, and it may, I'm not exactly sure why it's unappreciated. Maybe it's misunderstood. Maybe it's just taken for granted. Maybe because the sale, that salesperson, because of the nature of what we need to do, are a bit siloed, easily not forgotten, but just kind of taken for granted. And
Well,
we just can't do that.
right. You raised a good point. It's actually kind of a good segue to my next question, which is, as a CEO, as I'm looking to hire sales talent, and we always are, I think, like you said, one of the first things that come to mind are salespeople are prima donnas and they're high maintenance. I mean, and maybe that's part of why they're not appreciated to the extent that they really should be, because the reality is they're the rainmakers. They're the ones who make it rain. They're the ones who generate revenue. I mean, how would you address that perception that salespeople are prima donnas?
Well, maybe we are in a way, but to your point, if we're the rainmaker, right? We're the revenue generating engine that runs your business. And there, like in any job or any, career, any function in life, there are attributes that one has that makes them more successful in different arenas. So in sales, right, those attributes may and can and do rub people in and can be in the wrong way. Things like she doesn't care about what's going on in other departments, or he just he thinks it's all about him, and he gets the commission and I don't, and I still do as much work. That perception of I'm doing the hard work and you're out having fun and I don't know what you're doing, but you're out, or you're hosting events and all you need to do is walk around. And so there's definitely in our business that rub, even in best circumstances. But I would challenge you and anyone else, Mona, that you should welcome that rub. I see this placating happening in senior living, and so I want to be really nice, and we all all need to get along. So we kind of tamper down, and I've been tampered down. Tamper down the sales to make everybody else kind of happy. You should welcome that rub, and I'm not talking about someone who's being obnoxious. Talking about that sense of urgency that we need and expect from top sales talent that drives this forward. So welcome the rub.
I love the way you put that, because that's so true and it's so honest. I used to always say what makes someone strong is what makes them weak. And the characteristics of a strong salespeople might be that they maybe not, like you said, as in tune to what's going on outside of their department. But that is why you need them. You don't need them to worry about other things. You need them to generate revenue. So what makes them strong is also what makes them weak. And like you said, you have to welcome that. I love that. And
yeah.
To your
I just was going to just, if you don't mind, I was piggyback
Sure.
on that because I love that point, and it's really leans into all of our the sense of empathy, right? So you don't need to even understand. A lot of people think empathy is, I know how you feel. Well, I don't know how you feel, but I'm empathetic to that. We need sales to behave in this way. We need to be challenged too, right? So we need operations to be to a certain way. We need activity directors to lean in. And so to understand, if you think of that, Ferris wheel, and we're all sitting in one of the buckets, and the center of this Ferris wheel is our resident and is the core, the core why that drives our business. We're all in different buckets, but we should be on the same ride. We should be on the same Ferris wheel.
Right. And because they do generate revenue, I think it was Tom Watson many years ago who said, nothing happens until a sales is made. So if you discount the salespeople or you run them off or whatever, there's no reason for anything else because you won't, like you said, your Ferris wheel, you won't be able to support that resident if you don't have the revenue to remain healthy. So I love that visual. That's a good one. And because they do impact revenue, how do they do that? What are the characteristics you would say of some of the top talent that you've seen out there?
I would say look for someone who's very driven. We need driven salespeople. And it's not a word that typically is really discussed in senior living. I know we've come a long way in the last 20 years that I've been in the business as far as, don't say sales and sales is bad. We still have way to go. You want a driver. You want someone who's results driven, someone who's got that leadership, right? Who's leading themselves through everything. They have grit. They don't give up. And they also, especially in our business, they can emotionally connect, right, to their customer, and yet do not lead business with emotion. So they can look at the business side unemotionally as well as connecting with their prospects emotionally. And I believe it takes practice.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this before we recorded, but there is a study out there that I'm going to look for, and it was a study of successful people and what the characteristics were of the most successful people. And the top characteristic was grittiness. They stick to it through thick, through thin. They're thick-skinned. They can handle rejection. They can handle all the things that life, especially in sales, it's not for the faint of heart, that they can get through it. And that's grittiness. So I love that you brought that up.
We don't talk about it enough. It's grit,
No.
determination. You want a driver. If you don't have a driver driving on your revenue bus, that's a red flag.
Right. And I think driver has been misconceived as a negative word, but it's not. Like you said, on a bus without a driver, you're not going anywhere. The other thing I feel like a lot of people, including myself, I'll just be honest, are concerned with is the cost of salespeople. They're expensive. And let me just ask you, is paying for top talent, is it really worth it?
And I would say, what's the cost of mediocrity? So, and another topic for discussion that I would love to continue, bouncing off professionals in the coming years is how we compensate. And in senior living, typically the base is way too high and the commissions are not either. Some companies don't give commission at all, or they're not really, it's not built to attract that driven salesperson. If you've got someone a base and they're sitting and they're comfortable, then what is and they're not driven, or you're not giving them reasons to be driven, the model's not working. Mm-hmm. So I would first ask, put your compensation in such a way that you're paying for results. Mm-hmm. So the check at the end of the day, you should be happy if the check that you're writing the salesperson is the biggest check, because that means your occupancy, your move-ins, your results are there because you're paying for results, mm-hmm. right? So 100% top talent is worth it. It's identifying that top talent and realizing it when you have it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would be leery of a salesperson who does just want a base salary and doesn't want commission, because that speaks to their hunger, whether they're hungry to sell or not.
It's a great point. And Mona, on the provider side, when I was CSO, there were, did lots of interviews, lots of hires, and we experimented with 3 options for our sales talent: high base, and kind of standard commission, not so much. Medium base, you can maybe eat and pay some bills with a really motivating commission, and then commission only. And to your point, why had nobody take commission only? And if you looked, it was all spelled out. The potential revenue for choice B or C was much greater than choice A. And without exception that I can recall, everybody chose A.
Oh,
I know. And so it's like for it's attracting. It's not to say we don't have a lot of talent in our business. We do, but we need to be attracting sales drivers.
Well, and anyone who chooses B or C, they believe in their abilities. And if they believe in their abilities, then you're more confident believing in their abilities when you hire them as well. So, yeah, I would be leery of anyone who picked A in sales, I should say. But you know what? Life is sales. We're always selling our ideas, our concepts, our point of view. That's what life is.
I always say if you learn and commit, it's not so much learning, but it's committing to the basic, strong sales fundamentals. It just translates, like you said, to your everyday life. And I wish they were taught in elementary school, because I do believe we would all be, I think even our ability, our EQs would be higher than they are, more developed than they are now.
That's a great idea, Julie, to teach that. And I do think that kids understand sales without even knowing what it is, because they're always trying to sell their mom or dad on an ice cream cone or a trip or whatever. And they don't take no for an answer. We could learn from them.
Certainly could.
So, Julie, another thing that you have said to me before was the difference between potential versus a top producer. Would you speak to that for a second?
Sure. Well, a top producer is going to come to you with documented results. And someone with potential, it's more of a gut thing. I think hiring is always a gut thing. I do want to say that, because without knowing firsthand, it's a gut, right? But with result, you've got documented results that helps the gut. If you don't, it really is leaning into your interview, right? Your interview skills and your gut to assess someone's potential, and really that I'm going to align that all word potential with willingness, right? Because there's a lot of unrealized potential, right? Laying on the couch somewhere. But is that potential plus I want to do this, right? Going back to that grit. I think the number one success of just being successful in life, however you define success, is I want to do this. Having a really well-behaved dog. I'm looking at my puppy right now, hoping he doesn't bark. You've got to want to train the puppy, right? Because it's not easy, right? You can have all the potential in the world, and the dog is so smart, but if you're not training and coaching the dog, you can't just show the dog one time in the training. The dog was through training 6 months ago. I don't know what happened. That's absurd, but we say that and do that. Well, our sales, we have great sales training. We know they go through a fantastic thing that first couple of weeks. That's a great start, but to help someone truly realize their potential and realize your business potential, you've got to stay with them. We've got to continue coaching and continue supporting others to those realizations.
Yeah, that's great stuff. The potential could be unrealized. The top producer is realized. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, Jules, I'm Julie. I'm sold. I'm going to go hire someone. So how do I find and attract and recruit and reward this top talent, I hate to use the word unicorn, but this amazing person? What do they want? What are they looking for?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. And in this recruiting top talent, attracting top talent should be on everybody's mind in every arena, of course. But we're talking about sales, and it's very much a passion of mine, as you well know. I think a couple of things, maybe some takeaways or action steps. I would look at or re-examine what we're saying in our, maybe our ads or our, in our recruitment tools, if we're kind of doing the same thing that we've done for the last, XY number of years, maybe let's look at utilizing maybe different verbiage of not so much what the job is, but what attributes we're looking for, and using strong action words. If you're driven, you're results oriented. When I do sales training coaching, or do executive coaching at VP level, what's their work product? And we talk in terms of that. Are your salesperson, the work product is move-ins. So we need to be stronger in what it is that we need. We need move-ins. We need sales and move-ins. That's your work product. And so recruiting top talent, I think we need to be more assertive in how we communicate who we're looking for, and not be embarrassed or ashamed of it. Yes, you have to love what you do. Yes, you have to have passion. Yes, you have to empathize and be able to connect. But great salespeople are great connectors. If you're selling anything, you got to get to know your customer. No more so than senior living. So we take it to those extra levels, which is, again, why we need to pay more for top talent.
Well, and I think to your point too, that's part of why, we said earlier how salespeople, they're different. They're a little bit different. So it's okay to talk to them in the terms that they understand. Like you said, driver, and speak to them in what they understand, because that's how they perceive their job. And that's okay. So what do you think about recruiting inside the industry versus going outside the industry for top talent? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mona. Certainly, within the industry, we've got a proven track record, or a candidate with a proven track record, and you've got the gut feeling that this is someone with grit and leadership skills. Great. But there's a finite number of anybody that we're looking for within our business. I think the days of they've got to have senior living experience is over. Let's look outside the business. I know we've talked about hospitality, and I've had mixed results, to be honest. I think assuming that anybody with a person in any one industry is going to, whether in hospitality, they understand, the customer experience, boom, let's get them. Let's stay fresh. Let's look for the sales, that grit and determination, and definitely look outside the business, as long as you have the infrastructure for not only great training, a great playbook, expectations, benchmarks, but you have a system for ongoing coaching of some kind. I was talking to one of the leaders in our industry, Mona, last week, and she said something that's just I've been thinking about, and she even showed me a picture. They were in a meeting, and they did a strategy session at the company, and they looked at their turnover, and she was very transparent with me, 110% turnover in sales in the last 18, 20 months, which is not unusual, and looked at other departments as well. The retention and staff member satisfaction, and put on the grid what they do for coaching, training, and support. She had this entire grid, and the satisfaction rates for the first 90 days were incredibly strong, as was the support. And as you looked at the grid, the support fell off, and the satisfaction and the turnover went through the roof in months 3.5 to 12. If someone stayed to 12 and 12 forward, the retention was stabilized. Wow. And I found that so incredible. Oh, here's a slide. Oh my gosh. Seriously. Okay. Turnover, retention. What I'm talking about there is, retaining good talent is what we talk about, the cost of turnover, and we should, but where I really am focusing in as retaining great talent. Some turnover is good, right? If they choose to turn over. They're not going to step up. I mean, I'm hired to come in and not to bulldoze, but to put infrastructure in place, or maybe fill gaps where there's some gaps, because there's a lot of great things going, happening in a lot of companies, and maybe there's just a couple gaps or maybe some support. And oftentimes what happens when there's a greater accountability, people will decide to leave because it's like, nah, I'm not comfortable anymore. And just like we talked about, a great sales driver should rub a bit, those expectations and benchmarks should be a little uncomfortable. If you're sitting in sales and you're super comfortable and you only I don't really have to do that much to hit my benchmark. That's not the place you want to have, you want to be. So retaining great people, retaining producers, and letting those who aren't turn over. That all being said, Mona, I do understand. I don't know how it feels because I'm not sitting in the seat at the moment, but I see it as with my clients, the cost of turnover is crazy. But I would also argue the cost of retention.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, Julie, because I was, like you see, I was about to ask you that question. So, people sometimes interchange the words turnover for retention. I was going to ask you kind of how you distinguish between turnover and retention.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, how I define it is, turning over, either someone voluntarily turns himself over, or the company or organization decides that it's not the right seat, the person isn't on the right seat or on the right bus at all, should be seen as more of a positive.
Mm-hmm.
If that individual was not the right individual to sit in the seat. What breaks my heart is self-determined turnover by a top producer or potential top producer because he or she wasn't receiving the support, after that first, hey, we're so happy you're here, and here's some training, or here's how to do the position. And then, and I understand the why, because, oh my gosh, we've got to go back over here and hire more, and the turnover, it's a vicious cycle instead of a victorious wheel, if you will. Retention is identifying and acknowledging and keeping, as we can, great talent in any department. So we want to increase retention and we want to decrease
the span of time for
turnover. Yeah.
Turnover quickly if they're unwanted, and retain long term if they're wanted.
Yep. We look at our.
I love that. And I wanted to kind of circle back on something else you'd said about whether or not getting talent within the industry versus looking outside the industry. And kind of the way I look at it is, if I have to pick between great talent outside the industry and mediocre sales talent, but industry knowledge within the industry, I'm going to pick the great talent every time. Because in my experience, and I could be speaking out of turn here, but in my experience, it's easier to teach industry language and culture than it is to get someone who might know the industry but doesn't know how to sell, and get them to learn how to sell. So again, it's all contingent on great training internally or through a sales trainer or what have you. But that's my perspective on that. So I want to ask,
it's great perspective.
I want to ask you one more question too before we wrap up. And I get it, you're in the industry, and I get this is what you do. So, objection for leading the witness here. But so, Julie, why are you so adamant that companies should invest in sales training during hard times?
Especially during hard times. So if it's a little uncomfortable. Yeah, Mona, you and I met many years ago, and I believe it was 2009 or 10, and we were in the, in the middle of the Great Recession, and senior living kind of trailed, the effects, if you will, trailed slightly behind other businesses in feeling the effects. And I worked during that time as a sales trainer and coach and support for the industry during that time. And I have documented, documentation to show that those who leaned in most during those tough times. They invested, they not just the training that's important, but that coaching and that ongoing accountability and skill sets, and really leaned in leadership training, executive directors truly leading a sales culture had not only did they in all cases maintain occupancy, but in some cases grew to record high occupancy. So I
Wow.
witnessed this, and the team, the coaching team I was leading, we all witnessed this in real time. And I equate this time that we're heading into, or we were in, and COVID and all of those pandemics and financial crisis very much to a Great Recession. And I 100% believe and know, if the more we lean in to training, to coaching, to great retention of great talent, and maybe embracing that's going to be a little uncomfortable for us, maybe from a financial standpoint, and also from a tiny bit of a culture standpoint. You not only will you not lose occupancy, you'll regain whatever has been lost to record high occupancy. It takes work, though. A lot of work. It's not unrealized potential. It's realizing the potential. And that does take an investment. You can either do it or not do it. And like you said, you can, hire, certainly, of course, that's what we do at Grow Your Occupancy, but, there's a lot of great companies with great internal. It's just that even with that, and I've sat in those seats and I've hired extra help because of the whirlwind, that they're all living in on a daily basis.
That's a great answer. And the truth is that even on a business level, during any great recession or great depression, the companies that invested are the ones who didn't just survive it, but in many times they made their mark and they actually built their business because of those decisions. So I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we did talk about a lot of things here today, Julie, but if there was one thing, because I know there was a lot, that you want to make sure that people take away from today's conversation, what would that be?
I always ask the tough questions, Mona.
You're welcome.
But I love it. I would say assess your talent and assess the results, and know exactly what you're looking for or looking at as far as the results. Of course, it's move-ins and sales, but going backward. And assessing the talent would be assessing the unrealized potential, and do this unemotionally. Use metrics, not how much you like somebody. Likability is important, but in assessing the work product, assess the work product. And in alignment with that, or alongside that, how much coaching has been provided, right? And to me, that's a takeaway. Assessing the talent, assessing what you have in place or the need, and then how much coaching, how much support, how much training, how many tools, what do you have for, sales enablement, and let that kind of be your next step, to kind of what you've put in and what you're getting out unemotionally, which is tough in our business, Mona, because one of the things I love about our business is the people who are in the business love our residents. They love what we do and why we do it. And in order to, this is a very high touch, emotional business. It needs to be, right? My dad's in assisted living, right? But so we recognize that and we love that, but we need to look on the business side unemotionally. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, that's really great advice, and I couldn't agree with you more. It does come down to the numbers, because just like you attract and you recruit and you keep great talent, even though they might sometimes rub you wrong, you get them because they produce results. And unless you're looking at the metrics, you don't know if they're producing results or not. And that's got to be your guiding North Star, if you will. That's got to be what you focus on. Great advice, Julie. Julie, you're awesome. I'm so glad you're you're here today. Oh, wow. That was just really good stuff. And I can't wait for our audience to hear this entire conversation. I'd love for you guys to reach out to Julie Podewitz. Her contact information is on our screen. She is, like I said, the CEO and founder of Grow Your Occupancy. I'm sure, Julie, do you do consultations?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, reach out to Julie. Be sure and grab a consultation, have a conversation with her, challenge her. As you can see, she's definitely up to that task. If you'd like to reach out to me, if you'd like to learn more about Advantage Anywhere, if you'd like to learn how to systemize your process from lead all the way to move in and everything in between, all under one platform, I'd be delighted to talk to you about that. My contact information is also on your screen. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's been a great conversation. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of Unfair Advantage. Have a great day. And thank you, Julie. You're wonderful.
My pleasure, Mona. Great seeing you.